Started digging a little deeper into the engine, removed the crankcase vent hose. Next, looking at undoing the valve covers. That's some brackets held there that holds the wiring to the injectors. It's zip tied in place, so all those needed to be cut. With that out of the way, the valve cover could be undone. It's two parts. It's like the top of the engine is actually separated in two halves, two 3-cylinder engines put together as a straight 6. Same procedure on the other half, just removing everything, lifting the cover off to see what things look like. Started looking at the way to turn the engine, and I thought it would be a bolt or a nut in the middle on the disc for the different belts, but it was not. But there seemed to be a, can't really see in there, so it's mainly by feel. It's like a cross there, so I cut the piece the correct size to fit there, and that was welded to a leftover socket. Tried a little, couldn't turn the engine around, so changed my attention to the injectors that I want to have checked that they are in good condition. So undid the fuel pipes and the electrical part. Here it's some smart nuts that are held in place. So I thought, was afraid of losing stuff down there. Undoing the return pipe for the return fuel. There are a bunch of copper washers there, but I had those little pincers that was valuable when picking them up. Here the pipe comes out. Made sure to label everything so it goes back in the correct position. I was a little worried about getting the fuel injectors out, but there is a nut or a bolt holding the engine together just under the connection on the fuel injector, so just wedging a screwdriver there and tapping it a few times and it started moving. Since that seemed to go quite easily, I removed the rest of the wiring and the rest of the fuel pipes going up there. Just loosened them and had to loosen the other end, and they could all be moved out of the way enough to get the injectors out. And then it was just a matter of undoing the bolts that clamped the injectors down in place. Took out the vacuum and made sure everything was as clean as I could get it before opening up holes that I don't want any dirt falling into. Second one was a little harder. Even if it had started moving, it didn't really want to come up, so had a small breaker bar. But for the following injectors, I just tapped the screwdriver in and bent it up a little, and that moved them far enough up that they could easily be lifted out by hand. Had seen a few little pieces of dirt down there that might have been wedged in there, so I had a little paper and a piece of hose to get a small enough vacuum to suck up anything that had fallen down. Some paper to just cover the holes. Cleaned the injectors up, moved the O-ring out of the way, brought them to a shop that tests injectors. They might not be in the super perfect condition, but all of them passed the tests according to the limits they have. They were well below all the limits. With the injectors out, I figured it would be a lot easier to turn the engine over, so valve covers were removed again, and I saw that there was a little debris there before, so this time around I had the vacuum going and tried to take away as much as possible. I'm not gonna go into any extreme detail about adjusting the valves. About half of them had they were not far off, none of them was very far off, but about half of them needed a tiny bit of adjustments. A couple were tight and one or two was a little on the loose side, so just had a feeler gauge, loosened it, and made sure to adjust it where it should be according to the manual. And the procedure to do this is also covered in the manual, what cylinder to adjust when another one is moving. They are kind of synced in pairs, so when one moves, one is at the position where it should be adjusted at that. So it's just a matter of moving it where it should be. Here I could actually see it, the one I wanted to access. It's a little tricky, the communication between me and my dad. So, and then we put the covers back on temporarily for now. We'll see if I need to look at anything more in here. I will do a compression test on the machine later when we have the hydraulic pump back in place.